Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's Small Biz Essential webinar. Today, we're talking about key performance indicators and what you need to know. My name is Sierra Ladroma. I am the project manager for the Iowa Center's Women's Business Center. The Iowa Center's Women's Business Center is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration. You will all receive an email after this event from my colleague, Ben Schultz, thanking you for attending today's session, information on how to connect to our speaker, as well as a form to complete. Please do us a big favor and take some time to fill this form out. This information allows us to continue providing free educational programming for small business owners in Iowa. Now go ahead, please take some time to locate the chat function on your Zoom screens because I want you to join the conversation today by asking questions, adding comments, or just saying what's on your mind. Today, we are joined by Anne Rollo. Anne is the Worldwide VP of Sales Strategy and Training for Kemin Industries and expanded the sales team into a cross-functional group of talented sales, technical, product, and marketing managers moving in unison for a successful sales process, and then worked with international teams to strategically improve their bottom line. Before I turn it over to Anne, if you are able to go ahead and say a quick hello in the chat, maybe drop where you're located today in the Des Moines area or throughout Iowa. And then Anne, the screen is yours, my friend. Let's do it.
All right. Thank you, Sierra. Wow, that was a pretty great introduction. I really just learned how to do a whole bunch of stuff.
In just a couple minutes, too.
Let's see if I can get this up there. All right. Hopefully you can see the screen. KPIs is one of my favorite topics. Over the last few years, working with some of our different teams around the globe, I realized they really didn't know what KPIs were. But then I started thinking about to myself when I was out in the fields roaming around the United States selling stuff. My KPIs was sales and gross margin. My personal goals were sales and gross margin. My SMART goals were sales and gross margin. At that point, we really didn't talk about how and what you were going to sell, but it was just go see what the customer wants and sell them something. So, it sort of showed how the business grew and the performance you were doing. But let's look at another situation. When I first started my career, it was in the 1980s. I started out for $13,000 a year. I called my dad and I was so excited. Dad, what am I going to do with all this money, right? And he just chuckled. Well, it was a few years later, I realized my income had doubled. It was now $26,000. And so my income looked like that graph that you see on the screen. Was I successful? Yes, but does anybody remember what happened in the 1980s? We had double-digit inflation. There was some years I had 8% cost of living increase, 10%, 14%. So that helped contribute significantly to my success. But when you looked at that graph, it doesn't show the whole story, does it? And so that's what we need to be thinking about today is what is it that you can work with? What is a number? A number is just a number. You can't manage numbers. Numbers are a measurement of the past, not necessarily a measurement of the future. And so what we need to think about today is what types of things can we measure, but can we manage as well? You can't manage a number. We have numbers everywhere. Graphs everywhere. We have big data. If we took all the measurements that we have in our business and put them on the walls of our conference rooms, the walls would be totally covered, wouldn't they? We've got metrics for profit, for cost, revenue, volume, percent of budget, cost of goods, share of market, customers contacted, accounts per rep, dollars spent on training, new customers, lost customers, projects, share of wallet, prospect calls, call reports, post-call plans, CRM entries, customer churn rate, innovation spending, product defects, customer acquisition, customer satisfaction, customer retention, sales by region, expenses, customer life value, and the list just goes on and on and on and on. Do any of those really measure how we're doing performance-wise with our business. Most of these are numbers that you can get if you're looking at specific problems that you're trying to solve, but most of them don't really tell you in itself how you're doing in your performance. And so really, hopefully each of you started your business with a business plan. That tells you why you're in existence. The screen is going a little wacky here, sorry. Your business plan tells you why you're in existence and where you're wanting to go. And so what you need to figure out is, where are we right now? Where do we want to be? And how are we going to get there? That's what your strategic plan is going to do. Every business plan should be followed with a strategic plan that's updated annually. This is how you're going to measure your success or your performance indicators. So let's take a look at a very simple strategic plan diagram. There's a million of them out there. This one just starts out by, what is your mission? And this is a timeless reason for your existence. Your mission statement probably should never change, or maybe every 20 years it might change. You might want to update it, but it should specifically say why you exist. The next thing you need to look at is your vision, and that also should probably be in your business plan. What does success look like in the future? It should be looking for the next 5, 10, 15 years. It's a long-term vision. And then the next level of the strategic plan is, what am I going to do? What objectives need to happen for that vision to occur? And these are going to be shorter term goals, maybe 1-year goals. And then you've got to start thinking about, how do I achieve those objectives? That's your strategies. Strategies should be looked at on a constant basis, at least every quarter, to make sure that you're still on track, because that strategy needs to be accomplished in the year that you set it. And then the bottom row of the triangle here is your tactics, projects, tasks, processes, actions. These are items that's going to happen every month or every week. These are the items that we need to take a closer look at, because that's where your performance can be measured. The outcomes, the behaviors, the initiatives, the projects, the activities, the processes. These are your key performance indicators. If you are able to achieve these items, you don't need to worry about your budget and your gross margin. They're just going to happen, because if you do these, you're going to get where you want to be. These are also items that you can manage. You can't manage a number, as I said before, but you can manage pre-call plans. You can sit down and you can coach and you can mentor your people and make sure that they're getting these items accomplished in the best possible manner. Processes, you can go in and change. Activities, you can add more on, you could subtract, but you can manage these and help them grow, help your people grow to become very proficient with them. And so let's apply this process. Actually, one of the things I developed and sold was tortilla preservatives for corn tortillas. And we had a pretty good business going. I had about 70% of all the corn tortilla business in the United States and Canada. I also knew that if I wanted to get 100% of the business, it was going to be impossible. It was probably going to be very difficult to get 80%. If you can get a 70% of the market, you're doing very, very well. But we wanted to grow. And so took this strategy triangle into consideration. And I wanted to become the #1 preservative supplier in the tortilla market. That was my mission. My vision was to have double-digit sales growth year over year. Pretty aggressive, right? How could I do it? Well, I figured that currently we weren't selling any of the flour tortilla preservatives to the same customers that were making the corn tortillas. So there was a whole market right there at our fingertips that could be expanded upon. They also made restaurant chips. And these are unfried chips. They take the corn tortillas, they cut them into triangles, They sell those to the restaurants. The restaurants then fry them. They need preservatives also because corn tortillas only have about a 24-hour shelf life before they spoil. So those were the two objectives that I wanted to achieve. Get into the flour tortilla market and investigate the restaurant chips. The strategies was to go in and offer the preservatives to the current customers and to develop the entry point for the chips. So those were the strategies for the year. Now, the tactics. Having my salespeople make 5 face-to-face visits per week. And they need to create 1 project per week from those face-to-face visits. These are items that you can use as KPIs. You can measure them, you can coach on them, you can change them, you can adjust them. Because if they happen, you're going to get that double-digit growth year over year. You're going to get the entry into the flour tortilla market. You're going to get the entry into the chip market. If you only say, I want double-digit growth year over year, you're not saying how, when, and what. You don't have anything that you can manage and that you can build upon. Make sense? I hope. Remember, if you have any comments or any questions, be sure to put those in the chat and Sierra will pass those on and we can talk about them. And so these are your KPIs, or your tasks, projects, processes, and actions, measurable and manageable. And so basically what we're doing is building a path for success. You start out with the business result you want. This is your number, your sales, your gross margin, your volume, whatever that number may be. You then identify your objectives or strategies that's going to allow you to accomplish that business result. This could be a campaign, it could be a new market you're going to enter, it could be training, it could be operations expansion. And then identify the activities and processes. Projects started, product type sold, customer visits, demonstrations. If you're selling a food item, perhaps tastings in a grocery store, special order, customer strategies, taking those big customers that you have and identifying specific strategies, actions that you're going to accomplish to get them onto additional product. And this is where your best KPIs come from. KPIs are also customized. It's not one set of numbers for your entire company. Every employee needs to know, what do I need to do when I get up in the morning? What is expected of me to be successful at work? And they also need to make sure to know that the expectations are realistic and achievable. And is there a reward for that achievement? Sometimes the reward is a paycheck. Other times it's a little bonus for every knickknack that you sell. Other times it's additional compensation at the end of the year in the form of a bonus. But we need to focus these KPIs based upon the team. Is it a sales team, marketing, operations, finance, technical? They're all going to have different KPIs and different goals to reach the objective that's going to give you the business result. We also need to look at management. A middle manager needs different KPIs than the top management or a CEO. You don't want that CEO down here in the weeds figuring out face-to-face calls. That's not their job. They need to have the vision. They need to look at the future. Where is the company going? And are we accomplishing the things we need at the big viewpoint? Middle management, they need to have KPIs about all of their salespeople, all of the people that's reporting to them. Are they meeting those KPIs? And so you can see that we're going to have the same business results and objectives, but our activities and KPIs are going to be different. And communication, so critical. The first time you announce a new idea to your team, they say, oh, that's interesting, and they forget about it the next day. The second time you bring that same topic up, oh yeah, you talked about that a few weeks ago. I remember. The third time you bring it up, they say, she's not going to let this go, is she? And then the fourth time, they say, yeah, this is what I'm doing to achieve those goals, to achieve those KPIs. So you've got to continuously communicate, celebrate, and it's not, bring out a big dinner and a band and go out for drinks. It's just celebration of, hey, you did a really great job. You met all of the KPIs this week. Do you think we can keep that going? Acknowledging and celebrating on a personal level is very, very rewarding. So I gave you some examples of a B2B. Now, I have a shoe store. I tried to do a B2C here. So, B2C. So welcome to my shoe store. That's the name of my store, my shoe store. You can see I have beautiful shoes, every color of the rainbow. And I also have some jewelry and some purses. It's a relatively small shop, small storefront, and I'd really like to expand. And so I went to the bank to talk about maybe getting a loan, and they said, you're doing a great job on sales, but your profitability isn't very good. So why don't you work on that and come back? Oh, darn. I really want to get into a bigger footprint. There's so many things I can do, right? So I sat down with my people and, we started brainstorming. How can we become more profitable? Let's put together a strategy. And so we were able to identify 3 different things. We wanted to take a look at all of our inventory. Was it all the same profitability? If it's not, then perhaps we could develop a marketing campaign around those product lines that's more profitable. And well, of course, we're going to need to communicate and train our employees on how to sell those specific product lines that are the most profitable. We also thought we'd review and optimize our inventory. Because, myself, when I go shoe shopping, I find size 7 is always gone. If we had 4 boxes of size 7 shoes, would that help our profitability? And those size 13s, it seems like those are the ones that's always on the discount rack. Is there a way that we could reduce our losses on some of these sizes that don't sell as well? And then the third item to look at on increasing profitability was delivery logistics. In today's world, we want to be everything to everybody, but it comes at a cost. If I'm sending next day delivery to somebody, that's a lot of money. How can I optimize that? Can I get a contract with the post office that they're going to charge me 1/4 of what they normally charge? What are some of the things around that logistics to get products delivered to my customers? And the other part of my strategic plan, believe it or not, was to maintain sales. I don't want to decrease. I don't necessarily want to increase, but I'll accept that. I just want to maintain. And that is part of a strategy to keep on going, to keep on keeping. So, marketing. When we take a look at marketing, what are their KPIs for this strategic plan? Well, they're going to help us increase the profitability to 13%. They've identified red shoes have 20% more gross margin than any other color shoes in inventory. So guess what? We're going to sell red shoes, aren't we? And to sell those red shoes, they're going to design the store so that there's big displays of these gorgeous red shoes. So when someone walks in the door, they're going to say, oh, I want that. And then we're going to participate in Des Moines Fashion Week. And so up on the runway, we're going to have some advertising that if you like those red shoes, come to my shoe store because I can help you out with that. And we're going to do some additional advertisements. And of course, as we do this advertising, we're going to be having contact points, touch points. How many readers have seen this information? That's where some of the KPIs can be surrounded then. How many ads are you putting out? How many times are you changing the displays in the store? These are some of the KPIs. It's going to keep the churn going and the interest level high. And then the other part that's marketing identified is they need to train the sales associates to sell red shoes. Because when people walk in, they aren't going to gravitate necessarily to the shoes. So they're going to teach them elevator speeches. Do you know what elevator speeches are? Let's say you're at a trade show and you get in an elevator and the CEO of a company you would love to do business with just stepped in that elevator. You have 20 to 30 seconds to get their attention and pique their interest before they go to the floor and they get off. That's an elevator speech. What are you going to say to grab their attention? And then the next part is to put together a story. Everybody loves a story. Look at these gorgeous shoes. These were made in Decorah, Iowa by a bunch of teenagers, and they hand stained every little part on the shoe. Or these were made in Italy with Italian leather. Making some type of a story. Try to get it true, accurate, but put together a story on why this is a fantastic item for them to purchase. So, elevator speech, have a story about the shoe, and also spin questioning. Spin questioning is a whole nother class, but basically it's asking the questions so the customer solves their own issue. Find out the situation, ask them about the problem, understand the problem, intensify the problem, and then needs payoff. What would it do to your life if you fulfilled this problem? If you took the problem away? That's what the spin questioning is all about. So KPIs for marketing, this is where they're going to be. Now, sales, you got to keep focused. Salespeople are always trying to go on a focus. That's just how we are. And so you got to keep them focused. You guys got to sell red shoes because we get 20% more gross margin. And we'd like you to offer them to 75% of the customers that come in the store. We know 25% is just going to be off doing their own little thing. But if you can somehow use the training that marketing gave you and present to 75% of the customers about red shoes. And also, you've got some pretty good customers you've got contact information on. Give them a call. Tell them about the red shoes that's going to be in Des Moines Fashion Week. Ask them if they want to come in and take a peek before they're on the stage. These would then be your KPIs for sales. Now, the other part, he talks about clarity of task. We need to know what is expected of us when we go to work every day. We need to know it's achievable, and we need to know if we're going to get compensated for it. And so when it comes to sales, it's pretty easy to figure out some compensation programs to drive your strategies. So in this case, you would give a compensation based upon every pair of red shoes that were sold. You're not going to compensate for blue shoes or yellow shoes, but you will for red. That's going to drive your business where you want your strategy to be. It's going to get you additional profitability. And of course, we talked about communication. Make sure you talk about that strategic plan on a regular basis. Talk about your marketing program. Talk about your customized KPIs. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Let them know this is the goal for this year. Don't put together strategies and KPIs and put them in the drawer only to pull them out when your boss says you need to update your plan. No, you got to live it. That's how you make sure that you're going to be achieving it. So we have been building a path for success. Identify the results you want to achieve, the numbers. What numbers do you want to achieve? What objectives are going to allow you to achieve those? And then link those activities and manage them relentlessly. There's two reference books I would like to offer you today. First is called Cracking the Sales Management Code, and that talks about KPIs and all the numbers we keep out there, but it relates KPIs to the numbers that can be managed and mentored with your people. That's the best items that you can put into your sales plan, areas that you can manage and mentor. And then the other one is Crushing Quota. It is a book on coaching salespeople. Something as simple as don't coach your salespeople after they've had a face-to-face visit with a customer. Coach them beforehand. Help them make sure that they've got their information together that they're going to approach to the customer with, not after the fact where perhaps they forgot a lot of items. So those are the two books, if I were going to recommend, they're my favorites on my bookshelf. So what are your best KPIs? Tell me, who's got some questions in the chat?
And I have questions. Okay, so with the example of the red shoes, how long do you and your team stay with that strategy until you kind of get back together and you ask yourselves, is this working or do we need to adjust?
Noticed on the strategy pyramid, it gave you some examples of time periods. A strategy typically should last for the entire year. However, you're measuring it on a weekly or monthly basis. So I would say if you've gone 2 or 3 months and you're not seeing desired results, it's probably best to go in and revamp your strategies.
Okay, let me see. A question came up. Do you have any tips for applying this to a more service-based industry rather than a product?
I knew that was probably going to come up. And you know, I think the service-based, give me an example.
Sydney, do you want to give us an example? Feel free to put that in the chat.
Or,
All right.
you know, this is something also that I'd be more than happy to chat with you, set up a time. By the way, I retired 2 weeks ago, so I'm looking to give back to the world and do some volunteer things and just, you know, keep it going, but not have to get up every morning at 6 o'clock.
Yeah. So Sydney mentioned in the chat, I'm an occupational therapist providing home safety assessments to older adults.
Okay. Home safety assessments. And so this is a challenge with, I'm sorry, with these virtual meetings, because I've got questions for you before I can really formulate anything. You know, what are you wanting to do with your business? Are you wanting to grow the number of clients you have? Are you wanting to increase profitability? Are you wanting to revamp the analyses, the situation analysis that you're doing? What is it that you want to achieve with your business? Because that's where you've got to start. And then you can start looking at KPIs.
Yeah, you know what? We can try something here. Sydney, if you are open to it, I can unmute you through the webinar if you actually want to have a quick discussion with Anne. Anne, are you cool with it?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Let's
I don't
do
promise I
it.
have answers, but we can ask questions.
Yeah, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
All right. So Sydney.
Hello.
Hi, Sydney.
How are you?
I'm well. Yourself?
Good. I actually have my intern on this call too. So we were just having an offline conversation of like, oh, if only our like product and our service were that simple as red shoes, that would be amazing. So I am an occupational therapist and we primarily provide home safety assessments to older adults wanting to age at home and prevent a need for a higher level of care like assisted living or nursing home care. So right now where I'm at is I've had a really great growth over the past year that I started my business, particularly just from January to now. And just looking at, you know, how I can make this more strategic.
Explain strategic to me.
I think right now it kind of feels like I'm just going with the flow and doing things that sound good in the moment, but maybe don't have a strategy behind them as far as marketing and sales.
Okay. I think probably if I were you, something that would keep me awake overnight would be the pandemic is over now. Is
Yes.
my business going to continue like it was when perhaps they're out and about and family can come help them more? And so thinking about some strategies of, I don't know, do you maintain that business or do you constantly have new business coming in?
I mean, it's been very steady, particularly in the past like 2 weeks.
So once you do an analysis, is it done? You have to find another customer then, or do you keep that customer?
It's ongoing for most people. So most people have a plan of care that they follow for about a month to 8 weeks.
Mhm. And so as you think about your business, what are you thinking right now on making it more strategic, making it more focused?
I think just having things that I go and look at on a monthly basis of, how did we do in the past month and how can I improve that in the month going forward, and looking at some of those performance indicators and figuring out what those are for my practice.
I'm just, I'm running out of questions here. And so sometimes it takes review of a business plan and a deeper review to be able to understand what strategies should be put together. It's not a simple process. It takes
Yes.
a lot of thinking and brainstorming and waking up in the middle of the night saying, that's what I want to do.
Right, exactly.
So, Sydney, my family and I kind of had this scenario with my grandma, with my grandmother,
Mhm.
of how do we keep her safe at home? Because not always, we weren't always there, but we wanted
Right.
to be. And so one of the things I know that if I were to become a customer of yours, I would need to know how working with you would provide more safety and assurance for every single one of my family members, including the most important one, which is my grandmother. So
Right.
if, just like with the red shoes, if someone comes up to me and says, girl, you look great in red shoes, I'll be like, I know. Like, show me the best one that you think I look great in and I'll buy them. But for your role, I'm almost thinking, I need to know how you are going to keep my grandmother safe, as well as how can you educate me and my family members with this assessment so that we know how to create like a functional space in our home. So for me, it's that huge education piece for safety.
Sierra, that's
Absolutely.
also the story. It's creating the story of peace of mind.
Yes, yes, yes. I need to know when I'm here at work that she's safe and that I've set everything up because I worked with a professional to make sure that my home is her home as equally as it is for my nephews or my nieces.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's where I get lost a lot as a clinician, is that I get so entangled in the medical side of things and the medical jargon. I think that sometimes it's hard to put into perspective from just, a family member.
Yeah. All right. Sydney, thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll talk soon. Okay, and that was cool. I have more questions for you.
Okay.
So,
You know what? If I stop sharing, I can see the chat, right?
oh yeah, for sure. Here we are. Okay, so as far as entrepreneurs who are just starting, especially with small businesses, they often are the ones wearing all of the hats. So you mentioned before, managers need to have different KPIs and goals as sales teams and things like that. What advice do you have for the entrepreneur who is every single one of those roles, and to best approach and organize the KPIs that they've recognized are the ones they need to focus on?
Yeah, back in my early years at Kemin, I wore all the hats. I started the food business, and you just spun the hat on, what day were you going to be? Were you going to be research? Were you going to be sales? Were you going to be marketing? And so I think you have to be very disciplined that you actually do some writing and put down, what is it I have to do for each of these positions, and keep your mind compartmentalized into that. So today you're going to be a marketing person, and these are the things that you're going to think about. And tomorrow I'm going to be the CEO. I'm going to look at everything that's going on at the high level, not down in the weeds. And you got to force yourself to do that on a regular basis. But yeah, you've got to think about what would it be like in each of those roles and what do your customers need?
Exactly. Okay. You mentioned elevator speeches, and that is something that we work on with clients almost every day. And I love the story aspect of it because me as a consumer, I want to know the story. I'm all about the story. But as an elevator speech, in your history, what has caught your attention when someone gives you their elevator speech? Like, what is the, like, ooh, I need to know more. I need your card. I need your information.
Well, for me, I'm a very creative, innovative type. So anything new and different gets my attention. And so a CEO, for example, if they're getting in the elevator with you, they want to know how it's going to impact the big picture of their business. So somewhat thinking about ahead of time, what is it that different positions in a company are going to be interested in? What is the draw? Is it viewership for advertisements if you're talking to marketing or whatever? But you've got to do something that's novel, something that's different to get their attention. One time I talked to a guy, I said, hey, I was just at your manufacturing plant last week. We did a great trial and everybody liked the product. Well, tell me more about that, he says, because he knew they were having a problem, a shelf life problem. So sometimes you can, if you've already been in there, it's one way of bringing out something a positive that you're doing to help them.
Yeah. So I want to emphasize there what you just shared of the elevator speech isn't necessarily to sell your business. It's more so to continue the conversation. And I think that's where people kind of get caught up in the elevator speech. How do I create this super smooth collection of words about my business so that someone can buy something immediately? And it's not about that. No.
They don't want you to vomit on them. That's what I always say.
No one wants that.
We would just vomit our information and say, will you buy? No,
Yeah.
you can't do that anymore. You've got to entice them that they invite you to their office because they want more.
Exactly. Okay. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs to think differently in order to see an opportunity for growth? So let's say a small business and they are so caught up in, let's say they have their 3 main products of revenue that they really like, but they often forget their creative side. So what advice do you have to kind of step back and be like, okay, this is not working and we need to find another opportunity here? But sometimes things get real blurred or clouded. So how do we kind of make things a little bit clearer?
If you have a couple employees, just going offsite for a day and just sitting down and brainstorming, throwing some ideas up on the board. Maybe if you've got some friends that you could invite out for, a night on, not a night on the town, but invite over and just sort of relax and start saying, I want to tell you about my business and see if you can help me come up with some creative ideas or things that I'm not thinking about. And oftentimes these things just happen in a conversation. I've also found, and I don't know if I'll get myself in trouble saying this, I also find that women are more prone to brainstorm and throw ideas around than sometimes men are. Lots of times they'll get all the information and they'll think about it and then they'll come out and announce a solution. As women, we formulate our solutions as we're talking. And oftentimes having that combination of men and women in a meeting or in a situation, a brainstorming situation, you're going to get better conclusions than if you only had a couple people there.
I love the suggestion of just going to your community.
Yeah.
Asking your community. Yes. So as businesses grow and you bring on new team members, what advice do you have in supporting all your team members in knowing the, like with your pyramid, knowing the end mission from bottom to top? Like, how do you get that investment from team members?
Doing sort of like I indicated, as your leadership team, or you, whoever it would be that's driving the company, would identify what you want for the strategies. And then you would work with the individuals in your company, that if it's teams or if it's just a couple individuals, to help identify what they need to do to reach those strategies and get them written down. Always put it in writing, always put it in a template, and it's something that you're always going to be looking at. So as you're put on the CEO hat, you can look at the strategies and how they're being implemented across all the different people in your business. And they should be supplying then a report to you on a monthly basis, what those KPIs are and what the numbers are. So you can see maybe who's falling a little bit behind or who's excelling, and you can make some adjustments as needed then.
Okay. And then, so this one's a more scenario based. Let's say a small business starts next month and they don't have much of a following, but they have a great product or service. What advice do you have as a strategy to get them to basically create like a strategy and KPI goals and things like that to let the community know about them?
That goes more into your marketing aspect. How can you get that involved? Last night I'm on the helping with the art festival. We need volunteers. If anybody wants to volunteer, please go to the art festival online.
You heard that? Yeah.
We need help.
If you're free.
But they were throwing out some different names of organizations that have a large viewership. And they said, how about, they have great information on here. How about if you put a blob on there about needing volunteers? And that we've come back. We lost last year, but we're back this year with more and better art. So think about how you can use social media. I mean, everything's social media now, right? You've got to have 3 or 4 or 5 stars, whatever it is, and somebody's recommending you. But that's how things are sold. Use that social media because it's free.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And then my last question for you is, what is the one thing that you want people to do today or this week to better support them and their businesses when it comes to KPIs?
Understand. Oh, just one thing?
Oh, okay, let's go. We have 10-ish minutes. I want to hear all.
I just think so often we start using big terminology. We start using words that really have no description to them. They're not focused. Identify where you want to go and where you need to focus to get that done. And I think that's what it's difficult to sit down and really think about the 5 steps, the 10 steps that's required to get from point A to point B. But if you can write those steps down, and of course, also alternative plans, plan A, plan B, because it's not always a straight path. Sometimes you have to take some turns. What happens? What do you need to do if this happens? This is the alternative that you would follow. But really staying focused on what you need to do to reach your goals. And what success looks like. Many people can't tell me what success looks like. Well, grow my business. Well, what does that mean?
Why is that?
Because I think they're so overwhelmed. It goes back to sitting down and forcing yourself to write. You've got to write, because when you write, your mind has to slow down. You write much slower than you're thinking. When you write, you get better plans, you get better thoughts, you get more creative, you get more complete. So write down what it is you want to do. And as you start writing, you're going to find that
oh my God, that scared me.
you're going to find that your goals, your picture of the future is going to start materializing. And you're going to be able to get those strategies and objectives put together then.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe have
you're
a glass of red wine. I don't know.
Do what you need to do to slow down in order to grow.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
You got to take the time to put that plan together.
Perfect. Do you have any last words of advice?
Not really.
All right.
I really admire you. Innovation is so exciting. I mean, just to develop a business and watch it grow is one of the most rewarding things that you can do in your life. I know, words of wisdom, don't let it consume you. Remember, you've got family and you've got a world out there also that you have to participate in.
Perfect. I've taken a lot of notes because everyone who has registered for today and who has attended today will get these notes, and then we'll also be able to reach out to you.
Great.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Would like to send you a copy of this presentation to.
I sure do. On behalf of everyone here, yes, we do.
I'll send that to you this afternoon.
Excellent. And thank you so much for spending your time with us today. It's always such a great time just, chatting. I know that I can get lost in conversation with you easily. Congratulations on your retirement. And we hope to see you soon.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for attending. Have a great day.